last day of July. Normally I would do a wrap-up at the beginning of the next month, because I'm thinking that I might squeeze in an extra book or something the last day of the month, but I just have to admit that it's July. It's the last day. It's 8:15 at night, or in the evening, or whatever you call it. And I have to go through my Hugo nominations, and not nominations, but my Hugo votes. I need to go through that and look at everything and see that everything is fine. I'm probably going to I might make another video tonight, maybe, I'm not sure. If I do, I might do that tomorrow or some other day, maybe the weekend or next week. Not sure. I don't know, I'm not promising anything, but I might do something about my Hugo votes. Since I am going to vote and I need to kind of figure out everything today, because it's a deadline, you know. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is my wrap-up for July. July was okay. It wasn't great. I have been insanely busy at work. July is the huge month for holidays in Norway, which means we have been really low-staffed at work. I'm a librarian, I work in a public library, we keep open during summer every day except Sundays. So I've been at work. I had one Saturday in July, so I had one Friday off in July. What did I do? Don't even remember what I did on my day off. Still, July is also like a very bad day for my month for my allergies. So I'm a bit allergic. I am also actually enjoying a glass of white wine. Before you say something about like preferring red wine to white wine, yes, I would prefer red wine to white wine. But firstly, it's summer. It's not super warm at the moment. I think it was like around 15 degrees today. But secondly, red wine gives me migraines. So I can't have them. I love red wine, but I can't have it, unfortunately. So white wine it is, which is fine. So let's go through the pile of books. I'm 3 minutes into this video already, and I haven't mentioned my books for July. So the first one was Orlando by Virginia Woolf. I absolutely loved this book. It was fabulous. It was wonderful and beautiful. The language, so poetic. What is this book about? Well, it's basically about a young man. He's from aristocracy. I can't pronounce. Aristocrat. He's an aristocrat. Yay! I managed to say it in English. So he's an aristocrat, upper class. He's living the kind of life. Orlando is living kind of the life of the young aristocrat life, the good life, and but time passes, and then he turns into a woman. Yes. And he kind of gets to deal with the ordeals of how it's like to be a woman of the time. So the story stretches out for 300 years. So he ends up at the end of the story. This is not a spoiler. This is not a spoiler because everybody knows this. I mean, it's a very old book. You can see this. Look, it's a very old book. So ends up in the 1920s, 30s. I think it's the 20s. But basically, it's kind of changing over time. You see how he kind of changes his situation in life, and he kind of looks at how things change, the changing of the times. And there's a little bit of an LGBTQ plus theme there going on. There's also feminism and the language. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. It's poetic, and I absolutely love this book. This is the third book by Virginia Woolf that I've read. I've read Mrs. Dalloway's that I read in university, which is like 2 decades ago. God, yeah, I know. So a long time ago, but I loved Mrs. Dalloway. I ended up loving To the Lighthouse, and I absolutely adore this book. Oh, that's why I'm so enthusiastic, because I really love this book, and I hope to reread it in maybe not too long, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, brilliant book. And before I kind of put this aside, I want to say that I got my copy finally. I've been thinking of getting a copy of Orlando for ages. And then in November, my wonderful friend in Munich took me to the Munich Readery. And the Munich Readery, if you're any time in Munich, go to the Munich Readery. It was wonderful. It's a huge second-hand bookshop with books in English. Just books in English, I think. Maybe there were some German books of translations of English, but it was like basically a English second-hand bookshop in Munich, or München, as I would say. So, wonderful book. Highly recommended. So, the next book up is Space Opera. Space Opera is one of the finalists for the Hugo Awards, and it's about the Eurovision, or it's like I can't speak English today. I don't know why, but it's inspired by the Eurovision Song Contest. It's called Grand Prix in the book, which I find a bit not funny, but it was kind of interesting because it's based on the Eurovision Song Contest, and in Norwegian we called it Melodi Grand Prix. So Grand Prix in this book and Grand Prix in Norwegian. So it's like a science fiction book. It's set in space, and it's different species who kind of compete. And of course, the main characters of the book are going to save the world, basically. I think then this book, in many ways, reminded me a little bit about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I actually prefer this to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that is mainly because I'm not a big fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Kill me. So that's just the way it is. It's a funny book, quite a lot of humor. It's strangely written in some way. So it was funny, but I'm still not quite sure what I thought about it. It's not among my favorites among the Hugo finalists, but not too bad. It was funny, yeah, so funny. Next book up, or the next two books actually, are Norwegian books, because I try to read Norwegian as well. I have a goal of reading 15 Norwegian books this year. I have also a goal, as I've mentioned previously, of reading 50 books this year. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it because of my master's degree coming up. But, so I'm trying to read some more Norwegian books, which is big for me because I used to not read much Norwegian. So the next book up is a book by Simon Stranger. I read another book by him earlier this year. I read another book by him previously, so this is the third book by Simon Stranger that I've read, and this is called Det som en gang var jord. What once was earth, or what once was dirt. And so it's a really interesting read. It's about a city or country, and there's a wall built around it by the people who kind of rule, by the rulers. And the main character of this book, he's one of the some people who digs a tunnel under the wall so they can smuggle in things. And they're trying to hide this. So it's kind of a little bit about oppression and about having your freedom taken away from you. You can see lines, or you can see connections to the conflict in Palestine, about occupation and stuff like that. I know a lot of people say that it's so predictable, and maybe it was predictable. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it's still food for thought, and I also think Simon Stranger really writes well, so I really, really enjoy this book. So, to the fourth and last book of July, so not too many books in July either, but yes, busy at work. So this book is Rikka, for alltid og forever. So first I have to say this book is written by Maiken Nylund, which is a former colleague of mine, so I might be a little bit partial, I don't know. But I don't know, I've read books by people I know before, and I have no problem saying I have problems saying I don't like it, but rather than saying I don't like it, I would say this is not my cup of tea, so I'm not going to finish it, because I don't finish books that I really don't like unless there's a very good reason for it. So this book is a children's book. It's about Rikka. She's 10 years old and she lives mostly with her mom. Her parents are divorced. Both her parents have remarried. They live a little bit far apart. So she goes to visit her dad every second Friday. So she stays there from Friday to Sunday, like every second weekend. And there's families on both sides. She's got a new sister with her dad, and she's got two twins siblings on the mom's from the mom. I don't know how to say this, sorry. Anyway, so she's got like 3 siblings, 2 sisters and 1 brother, but in separate families, sort of. So this makes her feel a little bit in between. She doesn't really belong any place of those. And she's just 10 years old, remember. On top of this, the book pretty much starts with her friend, her very best friend, Lisa, tells her that she's in love with Tom. Tom is Rikka's neighbor, and she has known him since forever. You know, a 10 years old life. So they've known each other for a very long time. And yeah, so Rikka goes like, oh no, being in love, what is that sort of nonsense, you know? The thing you think when you're 10 years old. And then Lisa tells Rikka that Rikka needs to make them boyfriend-girlfriend, and gets Rikka to ring Tom's door to ask him to be Lisa's boyfriend. Of course, things doesn't always go as planned. So what happens when Rikka rings the bell is that Tom's mom opens the door and asks if Rikka wants to go swimming. Rikka has earlier asked Lisa if they want to go like swimming or bathing, and she had said no because she's in love with Tom and wants to get like Tom as her boyfriend. So without really meaning to, she says yes, and the situation is a bit strange for her. And it ends up, Lisa gets really angry with her, doesn't want to talk to her. Rikka wants to explain, but it's very hard, and you're 10 years old, and crisis. So they fall out, and this is like really hard on Rikka. So it's kind of, I think this book captures very well the life of being 10 years old. And yeah, it's well written. I did cry a couple of times. There are things happening in this book. I'm not going to spoil more stuff, because all this stuff that I told you is like happening at the very beginning. And I think you should read it if you're Norwegian, or if you're like going, I don't know. It's fits for grown-ups, I think. For everybody, but I think it's mainly the audience is supposed to be maybe like 4th, 5th graders, I think, if I'm correct. Very well written, and I'm probably partial. So that was the 4 books that I've read for July. Have you read any one of them? I would love to hear if you read any of them and what you thought. Did you read something fun in July? Are you a Hugo votee? I would love to hear that as well. And I would also love for you if you subscribe to my channel and give this video a like or whatever you do. I know I don't make videos very often. I'm trying to get better at it, and I'm this is getting long. I'm boring you. So, I hope you're all good, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!